Recording live in the Lucky Number 7 Lounge, this is Dine, Drink Vegas, the podcast by and for everybody stuck at home, wishing they were in the land of neon lights and bad decisions. I'm your host, John, also known as the Baller on a Budget, and you have stumbled across episode 70, where we're going to dive into the M-Life offers that have been hitting Bill's inbox. Of course, we're also going to bring you the Vegas news that we thought was interesting, a major show announcement, and of course, our patented crowd-pleasing drink of the day. But before we can bring you any of that amazing, fantastic, top shelf Las Vegas travel content, we've got to welcome in the founder of Dine, Drink Travel and Dine, Drink Vegas himself. Yes, I speak of the high roller, formerly of the High Plains, the leader in the luxury lounge, the king of comps, the Alabama Slammer, the man who's always waiting on that limo to take him to his next luxurious resort destination. Of course, I mean Bill. Good evening, Bill. How are you?
Good evening, John. I'm great. How are you today?
I am good, but much like I could see your little pet cat behind you, curiosity just might kill me. So listeners, if you follow me on X or Twitter, whatever it is, then you saw the picture I posted on Wednesday night when we recorded of this envelope that I've received from Bill. The drink of the day is in here. I have not opened it. The tape you put in place is still there. So, Bill, do I have your permission to finally open the envelope?
So wait just a second. I do want to set it up just a minute for our listeners. So I did leave it in an envelope because I didn't want John to get a sense of what it was. But I have sent him 2 whiskeys. Now, when we did a similar episode, I don't know, 4 or 5 episodes ago, he told me they were both bourbons. He gave me some hints, but John's got a more refined palate than I do. So I wanted John to, have less of a start. So all he knows is there are 2 whiskeys. My promise to my friends is that they are both good whiskeys. Also, as he tries them, I will be having the same thing, although in my case, it is obviously not a blinded taste test. So, brother, whenever you're ready, open up the envelope.
Okay, I'm opening the envelope. The Academy Award goes to... Okay, the samples are in a... the wrapping paper was very well chosen.
I'm here for you, man.
Do they come with a plastic applicator? I don't know.
It is just 2 test tubes of whiskey, John. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, in a feminine hygiene marker. I will say, the test tube vials that you sent look better than the urine cup looking vials that I sent. When I come visit you in your fair city, I'm bringing the next round of samples that I'm shipping to you. I upgraded the sample game, and we can just ship that kit back and forth. I think it'd be nice. But as I look at these, like that was sample A that I'd already opened, and now I'm going to take sample B out. Maybe an applicator would be helpful because it doesn't. All right, there we go. It's just crammed in there. And there's sample B. So I'm just going to evaluate how they look in the test tubes. And I got to say, the color on both of these looks relatively similar. They are a golden hue, but nothing crazy. Crystal clear. So, that's not really telling me a whole lot other than this is not a super aged product or a product with a whole lot of artificial coloring added. If they did add artificial caramel, they were at least subtle with it. So, sample 1 into the glass. Now, listeners, Bill gave me credit for my palate, and I like to think I'm a good taster. We are having a massive cedar outbreak here in Texas, so my sinuses and allergies are having their way with me, but in the glass, still that lovely golden straw color. Boy, I'm not getting a ton on the nose. That may be my allergies.
I think that is your allergies because I can smell a great deal.
There's definitely, I could smell some oak, a little honeysuckle, a little vanilla. Just on the nose, I'm leaning towards bourbon just because the barrel note is there, but it's fairly light in color. So let's see what we got.
Also, just for measuring yourself, John, each of those test tubes was 1.5 ounces. So each of those test tubes was a standard American shot.
And again, my allergies have gone bananas. I've already had to mute my mic a couple of times to cough. So I'm a little compromised.
So, before you finish that one, John, would you like to take a sip of sample B, or do you want to finish sample A altogether?
No, we're going to go back and forth. My mind is trying to lock into what I'm tasting.
So I think that's fascinating, John. And I think what our listeners may be learning tonight is that it matters very much that you not be congested, because these are both. I'm surprised you're not getting more hints.
Give me a minute. Let me work. So the second one is a little easier for me to place. This to me seems to be Irish whiskey or an unpeated Scotch. You have a love for those. And I'm wondering if the second one is also an Irish whiskey that has perhaps been finished in a bourbon barrel to give it some more of that character. When I was trying to run my mind around, I'm getting what I think is malt. And again, my sinuses are going crazy. I'm getting what I think is malt with A, but I'm also getting some notes I would associate a little bit more with bourbon. And then the second one, I'm just getting a nice clean malt flavor. All right. So do you want me to actually guess what I think I'm drinking, or how do you want to proceed?
Let's do that. Let's guess what you think you're drinking, and then I will tell you what it is you've enjoyed. Also, what I'd really love knowing, John, is so tell me what you think you're drinking, and tell me which one of the two you preferred.
So with B, I'm going to say that is a mid-shelf Irish. I don't think it's Jameson's. Maybe Ryder's Tears, maybe Yellow Spot, a pretty decent Irish whiskey. And with B, I almost want to guess that this is Jameson Black Barrel. With A, excuse me. With A, that's like Jameson Black Barrel, something that's. I still think this is Irish, but I'm getting some bourbon notes. It's either a very faintly flavored bourbon or it's an Irish that's been in a bourbon cask. And Jameson Black Barrel is the only one I could think of.
So, listeners, you've heard John talk about both bourbon and Irish. There are several things, obviously, which distinguish an American bourbon from an Irish whiskey, but one of the things which distinguishes the two is that an American bourbon is always aged in a first-use oak cask. Irish whiskey is almost always aged in a cask which has previously aged something else. What that means is it's going to pick up some flavors of whatever the first thing is that it aged. One of the other differences, in addition to the mash bill, is that Kentucky and other places where bourbon is made are hotter than Ireland. Yeah. What that means is it ages more quickly in a first-use barrel. But your guess about B, John, was that it was a mid-shelf Irish whiskey, and B was Green Spot Irish whiskey. So you were very, very close.
I think I said Yellow Spot. I upgraded a little bit. So I'm not embarrassed on B. I am happy that I was in the range. I'm worried about that I've embarrassed myself on A, and I'm going to blame my allergies if I have.
You did not embarrass yourself, and this was a little bit of a trick is the wrong phrase. I raised the degree of difficulty for you because you're better at this than I am. But A was Yellow Spot Irish whiskey. So, folks, for those of you who don't know, these spots are made by Mitchell and Company on Grafton Street in Dublin. They are phenomenal, but they have a range of whiskeys. It's all the same mash bill, and basically the difference is how long they're aged. Occasionally, they'll have something that's aged in a different kind of barrel. Green Spot is the youngest. There is no age statement. Yellow Spot is aged 12 years. It is aged presumably considerably longer, and it certainly cost more. But the only difference is how long they are aged in second use barrels in a colder climate, which means the difference isn't going to be as profound as it might be with a younger or a more matured American bourbon aged in a first use cask in a warmer environment like Kentucky. So do you want me to read what the bottle says the tasting notes are, John?
I would love to hear that. I will say it again. So just so I can embarrass myself further, like I said, I was getting things I would associate with a bourbon cask. I was getting some vanilla, I was getting some honeysuckle, maybe a hint of citrus, and then I was getting that malt character. But it threw me off for a minute because the first thing I hit was the barrel, but the grains didn't seem right. So
no,
I'm a little embarrassed that I compared a $30 bottle to a $70 bottle. So I was way off in that regard. But tell me what Yellow Spot says I should be tasting.
I love what you think the prices of these are. Green Spot, as I find it, tends to go for 40 or 45. Yellow Spot tends to be about $100 most of the time.
Okay.
Yeah. But the Yellow Spot, the more expensive of the two, the single pot still whiskey has been matured for not less than 12 years in a combination of American bourbon, Spanish sherry, and Spanish Malaga casks. Nose, mown hay, and cracked black pepper, red bell peppers, nutmeg, clove oil, and green tea, which just sounds to me like they were making stuff up. But the critical thing is the cask it was made in, and the first one they list are American bourbon casks. So the Green Spot, which doesn't have an age statement on it, and I've still got the container it came in. I'm looking for it, but yeah, it also doesn't say what kind of cask it was made in, but the nose on the Green Spot, which you very nearly identified correctly, were fresh aromatic oils and spices with orchard fruits and barley on a background of toasted wood. Taste, full spicy body, a hint of cloves among the fruity sweetness of green apples, rounded off with a toasted oak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I will, yeah. So yeah, I didn't pick a lot of that up. I will say some of those notes for the Yellow Spot are things you would pick up at something that's been aged in a wine barrel. And maybe the allergies. I'm not getting those notes. What I really got was that bourbon barrel and all of those malt characters, which they can describe as grains or they can describe as wheat or whatever they want to describe it as. But it's malt. You know what malt tastes like.
Sure. So,
I wish I was getting all of those notes, and I don't know if I'm compromised or if the description was a little flowery.
So, listeners, John is coming here to my town in Alabama this weekend just to hang out, and so I can show him the local bars. And I look forward to giving him these whiskeys again when presumably his allergies have cleared up. Before we move on and talk about our announcement for the new show format, John, would you, in your impaired state where you can't smell things as clearly as you would like, would you pay more for the Yellow Spot or would you not?
The price gap is fairly substantial, but and especially because I wasn't getting the nuances, there was a lot more flavor in the Yellow Spot. Now, whether that flavor was worth the extra money, I'm saving my last swallow because while you're reading a news story, I'm going to go grab my Jameson Black Barrel because I don't know that Yellow Spot is $80 better than Jameson Black Barrel.
I will be interested to hear that.
I got a question about that. I will say the Yellow Spot to me was better than the Green Spot. The Green Spot feels more like a more entry level, middle of the road. There was clearly more flavor going on in clearly you could perceive the barrel notes. Wish I could have gotten all those Spanish wine cask notes. It might not be the whiskey's fault. It could be this Texas allergy thing. Everybody in Texas is wheezing today.
But you're the king of the mid-shelf anyway, John. Like there comes some point past which it's not that you can't tell that it's a nicer bourbon because you can, but a lot of times you're not willing to spend the more money on it anyway. And you've made some excellent arguments for our listeners about what's worth paying for and drinking.
Yeah, I will say between the two, I do prefer the Yellow Spot over the Green Spot. There's more going on. Whether or not it's worth the price it commands is another another matter.
Another question.
And I, like I said, in a moment when you're reading a news story, I'm going to go grab the cheap bourbon aged Irish and make a determination.
I look forward to it. Well, then, John, would you like to tell our listeners what we're doing with the podcast now before I read the first story?
Yes. So, listeners, we called this podcast Dine Drink Vegas on purpose. Now, Bill founded a broader company, Dine Drink Travel, and there's videos on social media, and we talk about other places to travel. The intent of this podcast is to be Vegas centric, but Bill and I, our families are going through some things, and we're in very different circumstances. But the net result is both Bill and I are not going to be able to get to Vegas as much as we would like this year, and what that means is some episodes, our feature story, we'll get into travel or booze or dining that is not in Vegas. Now, we know a lot of you are here for booze and Vegas news, and you don't want to listen to us talk about Ireland or Alabama or Dallas or Austin. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to now do the drink of the day, followed by the news. Those of you that are here strictly for Vegas, you're welcome to bow out after the news if you would like. Those of you that are in for the shenanigans all the way through, we'll hold our main story for the end. Tonight's main story is Vegas eccentric, is Vegas centric, but moving forward, booze, news, and then points of views. Bill, why don't you launch into that first story, and I'm going to go grab my Jameson.
Well, do. So, listeners, if you are new to the podcast, welcome. We are so glad you are here, and we hope that you will like and subscribe. We also hope that you will leave a comment somewhere down below, because that really does help us grow and helps other people find our podcast. And if you've been here for a while, thank you so much. And as a longtime listener, you will know that our first story tonight is, as almost always, from Scott at Vital Vegas. And Scott blogged about the closure of several different shows, including Disco Show at the Link, Raid the Rock Vault at the Hard Rock Cafe, and Bob Marley Hope Road at Mandalay Bay. In short, according to Scott, all those shows stunk, which is probably why I never heard of them. So, John, do you have any sort of an indication of how often shows in Vegas actually make it big versus closing with a thud the way these three did?
So it can depend. I mean, it all boils down to ticket sales. I will say, in regards to Raiding the Rock Vault, that thing has been around. And Scott says in the article, and I don't remember if it was 12 years, 15 years, they've had a good run. Now, they've ripped through multiple properties. I think the first time we went, they were in, I want to say, Harrah's. They've been all over the place. I think when you wind up in the Hard Rock Cafe location, you're probably beginning to circle the drain. The other two, the Disco Show was apparently there's no place to sit. You're not watching a performance. It's like a disco party. I think that concept didn't work out. Now, Spiegel World, however you say that, they do some cool stuff. Atomic Saloon and Absinthe pack them in. But just as OPM closed over at Cosmo, where they were trying to do the dinner and the show attached to Super Freako, I don't know if Disco Show suffered because it wasn't a real show and they wanted more audience participation, or because we've talked about Diner Ross started off to be a diner. Now it's Diner Ross Steakhouse, so the restaurant's got an identity crisis. But yeah, I think in Vegas, a lot of things get thrown to the wall and not everything sticks. And that's okay. Changing shows is not a bad thing. But I do think these got stale. And let's be honest, the people who want to raid the Rock Vault, let's just say their back hurts when they wake up in the morning.
Ah, yeah.
You know, the target demographic may not be showing up the way they used to.
Fair. Well, what else do we have, John?
Well, before we jump into the next one, I want to circle back to the drink of the day. I have my Jameson Black Barrel. Okay. Side by side, the yellow spot is better. I'm not going to pretend it's not. But the difference between these two whiskeys, and again, this could be my sinuses, my allergies. I'm clogged up like I'll get out. The difference between these two whiskeys is not $80 in difference. The yellow spot is better than the Jameson Black Barrel. I'm not going to lie. But in my current state of sinuses, I don't know that it's $80 better. Anyway.
So that's fair, but that's true with a lot of premium products, right? Like the marginal increase in quality is significantly less than the marginal increase in price. Listeners, as our longtime listeners know, and John, while you were away, I thanked our longtime listeners and asked the new ones to like and subscribe. But listeners, for those of you who've been here for a while, you know I have a child in school in Dublin, and next year I'll have 2 children in school somewhere on the island of Ireland. I spend a lot of time drinking Irish whiskey, including in Ireland. And Jameson is absolutely a product that actual Irish people drink in Ireland. So it is a good quality whiskey. I just happen to prefer the spots. Go ahead, John.
I will say, yeah, and the yellow spot is better than the Jameson Black Barrel. The finish is smoother. I'm still not picking up those wine notes, but I am tasting that something is smoothing out the rough edges of the bourbon barrel. The yellow spot is marvelous. I don't know that it's worth $80 more than the Jameson. Anyway, Scott also shared news that the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office denied the A's organization application for, and I quote, the Las Vegas Athletics, and I quote again, the Vegas Athletics. Now, every other news outlet covered it too, but let's be honest, nobody enjoyed telling us this more than Scott, who really enjoys picking on the A's and who still thinks the stadium's not happening. Bill, you're more versed in the inner workings of how these sort of things go. Do you think the A's eventually get this sorted out with the patent office?
I'm sure they do, because for one thing, they had it sorted out in all the previous cities they were in. And if it met the trademark standard in all those other cities, it will eventually meet the trademark standard here. I'm kind of surprised it hasn't. But yeah, no, I'm pretty sure they get that sorted out. And listeners, so as you know, John and I have talked about this for a while. Scott is better informed about Vegas than we can ever hope to be. He thinks this project is just fundamentally not happening. John and I think it absolutely is happening, even if perhaps there might have to be a change in ownership groups. Speaking of ownership groups, as we'll talk about in our main story later on tonight, I tend to stay at the nice places on the Strip, but John has been wanting us to go for years to Ellis Island, at least to gamble, and Scott broke down Ellis Island's new loyalty club program. Now, they obviously can't offer the perks of the big resorts, but they do treat video poker and electronic table game players better than most places, so you can turn that bubble crap play into points for dining credits or free play. So, John, I'm going to make a confession. Are you ready?
Yes.
I'm actually ready to go back to Ellis Island and gamble again. I've forgiven them for that bullshit they pulled about 3 years ago.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's going to be a good night. You get 2 points per dollar in. No, you get, excuse me, dyslexia. So it's a point per dollar into slots, and I think live table play, although they didn't have that on the graphic that Scott shared. But here's where it's important. A point for every $2 in video poker. Now, video poker is a much higher return to player than slots. So a 2-to-1 ratio for points is generous. And then $4 gets you a point on electronic table games like Bubble Craps. Now, that is important because I have sat at a Bubble Craps machine at an MGM property and put, granted, I never had that much money. The way Coin In works, it doesn't mean I put $1,000 in the machine. It means I recycled the same $200 over and over again. But I put a couple thousand coin through and got almost no points from MGM for it. So that 4-to-1 ratio for people like you and I who enjoy playing Bubble Craps, that's a good deal. And the fact that you could turn those into either dining at some of the very good restaurants in that building, not high-end restaurants, but I know you will slum it for good eats. I've seen you do it. You like scrappy and affordable as long as the flavor's there. Points for free play or good meals, I'm all over that. I think it's a good deal.
All right. Well, then I look forward to giving that a shot, man.
Well, moving on, Las Vegas locally reminded followers that if you ask nicely, most strip restaurants, and by strip restaurants, it's almost entirely the restaurants at Caesars properties, they will waive the C&F fee, or convenience and franchise fee, that appears on your menu, which is somewhere, but depending on the place, between a 3% and an 8% fee for absolutely money. It's basically the we would like more of your money fee. And if you ask nice, they'll waive it. Now, the problem with that is if you happen to be like me or Bill and you are several drinks in before you sit down at somewhere like Beer Park, and then you have several more drinks while you're there, you may not check the check very closely. And they're counting on that so they can milk some extra money out of you. Bill, how do you feel about these kind of fees?
I am not favorable about them. I hate the nickel and dime sort of way that Vegas, and for that matter, a lot of the airlines have gone lately. And if you want more money, just raise your prices. Your prices can be whatever they are, but people deserve to know what they're paying without having to obtain a law degree to figure it out. And I'm sure it's posted somewhere that these fees exist. But yeah, gosh, I hate stuff like that. And what you've just told me, John, is I need to quit my habit of simply handing the card and having them charge me stuff. I need to actually look at the bill.
Yeah, which I think is what they're counting on. Is you're in Vegas, you're having a good time. Nobody wants to be the Karen, except people who enjoy being Karens, and then God help you people anyway. But nobody wants to be a Karen. Nobody wants to analyze the bill. I'm the same way. They put it on the table. I don't even open the folio. I slip my card in there. I look at the total to figure the tip, and that's the end of it. Yeah, I'm going to be paying more attention because, frankly, and I'll even tell a waiter or waitress, if you get rid of this fee, I'll put that amount back towards your tip, because I don't mind spending the money, but I don't want to give your bosses money for nothing. I'll pay you for good service.
Fair. And I think that is a good thing for you to do. So Las Vegas locally was one of many accounts spreading word about Allegiant Airlines' merger with Suncoast Airlines, making the newly combined company one of the bigger discount airlines serving Las Vegas, but often doing so from smaller regional airports and markets across the country. So, John, I've actually had flyers from both of these places. I think Allegiant Airlines more commonly. Do you get flyers from either of these places for any market near you?
I don't. The nearest markets they fly out of for me are 5-hour drives. And if I have to drive somewhere to get on your airline, I'm taking another airline. I will say, obviously, I've been a Southwest flyer forever. I'm not above doing a cheaper flight if it gets me to Vegas conveniently and leaves a few dollars in my pocket for gambling, a nicer room, or a better meal. I don't have to be first class on a 2 to 3 hour flight. Of course, if you're coming in from, I know we have listeners in Ireland, you don't want the cheapest plane ticket. I get it. That's a long time to be in a, tin can in the sky. I would fly these if they flew out of my airport, though. I'd give them a try.
All right. What else do we have, John?
Food and Loathing, the Food and Loathing podcast did a feature episode from Butcher and Thief. Now, Butcher and Thief is a local-centric steakhouse that's operated by Chef Corey Harwell. He of Carson Kitchen fame. Now, we've talked about Carson Kitchen before, not to be confused with 7th and Carson, but it is downtown. It is a locals place, although it is a very short block from Fremont Street, and tourists should absolutely get in there. This restaurateur has worked in some of the big places in Vegas. He knows what he's doing. The new joint is on the southwest side of town near the Durango Resort and Casino, pretty much due west of Mandalay Bay. And it features chef-crafted meals at affordable prices. And by affordable, Bill, I mean they had steaks on there that look like the price at Outback Steakhouse in any town in America. And Corey Harwell's a better chef than whoever they got firing steaks at your local Outback.
So then I would actually think about that, and you'd help me find some spots like that. My problem with these off-strip locations is one of the things I don't want to do when I get to Vegas is put effort into stuff. I want to be able to just kind of gently roll to wherever I'm going, probably on foot. And having to get in the Uber and go for a while, I don't know, it's not my favorite thing. Now, your solution to that would be to walk, but you might have us walk 12 miles through a rattlesnake-filled homeless encampment just because you're like, Bill, we'll save 3 cents this way. So I would go. I'm less intrigued because of the off-strip location.
So I included this for 2 reasons. Number one, you are often fond of throwing in a story to remind our listeners, because most of the listeners are like us, they're tourists. We don't live in Vegas. That Las Vegas is a real town where real people live real lives. It's not just where, America and the rest of the world goes to get blackout drunk and pretend that we were at a prayer meeting. So it's good to know that there's an amazing food scene in the city, not just aimed at tourists. But the other reason I put it in here, actually 2 more reasons. One, we just talked about a CNF fee. If you're with a party, if it's just you or just you and your significant other, the money and the hassle to get an Uber and ride over there and back, you're probably not going to save that much money on your meal to justify the hassle, the time, and the cost of the Uber. But if you're on a guy's trip like ours, where we roll out there with somewhere between 4 and 7 dudes, that would be enough savings to split the Uber and make it happen. The other thing is, you and I have talked about exploring some of the other casinos in the area. Durango is a new property. It's gorgeous. It's about a mile down the road from this restaurant. If you're staying at some of the off-strip properties that are nestled away in some of the local neighborhoods, venture out and have a meal with someplace local. Even if we're staying on the strip, Bill, like if we did a guy's trip at Mandalay, this is probably an 8-minute Uber ride. Go have dinner there, go over Durango and gamble for a few hours and then head back for the night. It's a way to see some sides of Vegas you might not otherwise see.
All right. You know what? You have me sold. I'll give it a shot. In other news, Vegas Publicity has write-ups on Vegas shows and residencies coming to town, including a big headliner residency for millennial and Gen X R&B fans, Mary J. Blige, who is rolling to Park MGM. Boomers can catch James Taylor at the Chelsea Theater at Cosmo, and younger folks, which means not me and John, can catch BTS at Allegiant Stadium. By the way, I had an administrative assistant in my office once who was a giant BTS fan. I have thoughts. Now,
hold on, just to clarify, because this was West Texas, I assume.
Yes.
Do you mean that her fanship was giant, or this being West Texas, do you mean the woman was giant? Because as Charles Barkley points out, here in Texas, we do have some big women.
Her fanship was giant. She was a totally normal-looking human who had options other than Korean bands. Now, archaeology document nerds like you, John, can even catch a night with Discovery Channel's Josh Gates and the Chris Angel Theater at Planet Hollywood in June. So, John, on the trips you and I take, whether it's just you and me, or it's whether you and me and our wives, or whether it's like, the guys' trip that we take over Labor Day weekend, why don't we catch more shows? Like, some of these are interesting. Why do we almost never actually do it?
Typically because one of 2 things happens. If we bring up the concept of shows, either you and Zero would rather gamble in the moment because we don't plan it beforehand. And by the time we're in Vegas, Vegas takes over. Or Mike wants to take us to the Skivia Stabia strip club in town, and none of us really want to do that. We don't want to see those aforementioned tortas out there on the main stage. So I think that's why I do like shows in Vegas. When Lori and I go, there's almost always a show. Sometimes it's a big production show like Cirque du Soleil. We've caught 3 different Cirque shows. Sometimes it's just a live local artist performing in a quiet bar somewhere, or a comedian, or the wine tasting with comedy, that kind of thing.
Okay, fair. And I guess all of that makes sense. My guess, though, is if there was something we wanted to watch and we had it planned in advance, we would probably actually show up.
Yeah, I mean, we've done that. We've done a couple of shows on guys' trips. We just sort of forget. If you'd like, I can nag the next time we're doing one, because I do like a good show.
Cool. Well, go on. What's our next story?
Well, Vegas Publicity also shared that Nobu, now I think we talked about this on a previous episode. Nobu has now opened an outlet in the Virgin Hotel, which is off the strip, but has a very impressive looking restaurant portfolio that we've talked about checking out. Nobu now offers Sunday brunch. Bill, does this increase your desire, pardon me, to at least go spend some time dining and gambling at Virgin? And would you ever consider a stay at Virgin? Because it is off the strip, but you're right there.
So I actually did a review of Virgin. I rented a hotel room, spent a lot of time in it, ultimately spent the night somewhere else. Virgin's a nice property, right? And for a Nobu location, yeah, I would give that a shot. I will say that the Italian place, which is there in Virgin, is really good, right? Like the partially indoor, partially outdoor poolside Italian place they have.
Oh, the whatever beach thing, yeah,
yeah.
I remember your video, which is on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, no, it is actually really good. So sure, that's one I'll give a shot, but mostly it's because even my head can get my head around like how easy it is to get to the strip from there. So that's fine.
Yeah, and you're also right there by the Hofbrauer house, and we really love getting spanked by Helga the Horrible when she brings our shots over to the table while we're eating our schnitzel.
I would contend that if Derek doesn't remember that it happened, it never really happened.
It happened to me. I could tell you that right now.
Mm-hmm.
She was extra angry when she swung on me. That's okay. I got enough of that in junior high. All right. Bill, the main story tonight has to do with you reviewing some of your offers and comparing what MGM has given you compared to what some other properties will. Now, I'm going to set this up before you dive in. It's fair to say that in the past year, you've spent more of your dollars for stay and dining and more of your gambling in MGM, although you have spread it around some. So when we're comparing these, keep in mind, Bill, and correct me if I'm wrong, you've spent more under MGM's roof than the other properties we're going to compare to. And yet, what does that get you from M Life or MGM Rewards, because it's not M Life anymore, but I'm old assuming, compared to these other properties where you've spent less time, less money, less gambling?
That is absolutely an accurate statement. I have spent a giant amount of time and money at the MGM properties. Now, I will also say they've got nice stuff. And if you're on the south half of the strip, it's kind of hard to avoid the MGM properties. But they've got great stuff. I've been doing it for years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I decided to do is do this live and on the air. One of the other reasons I started to look at this, beyond the fact that I'm getting flyers from a lot of places, is longtime listeners, you know, I may have had one or two small customer service issues with MLife, which makes me not really want to go back there. And I'm not talking about I lost money in the casino. I'm talking about like they would give me a guaranteed room for which I would book a guaranteed fee and then say, oh, no, I'm sorry, Bill, that's not what you booked, which raised my hackles the tiniest bit.
To riff on Jerry Seinfeld, taking the reservation's the easy part. Holding the reservation and the price, that's the important part.
So I am logging into MGM Resorts right now, and at first glance, the offers aren't terrible. So I don't have specific dates pulled up, but it's telling me that at the Bellagio, complimentary room rates for one night, $25 free play, $50 resort credit. I'm sure there's going to be some discounted rates in there. At the Aria, I can get 2 free nights. So that's not terrible. It's less generous than it had been, but I've been spending less time and less money. At the Vidara, 3 nights. At the MGM Grand, 4 nights. So, and Mandalay Bay, 4 nights. So I've got some good offers, but the trick comes for specific dates. So I'm doing this live and on the air. John, in your town, spring break for your kids, and for that matter, for my youngest child, is the week of March 9th, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Cool. So one of the things you and I have talked about on this podcast for a while is if you want to stay in a nice place, try to go midweek. So I'm going to look at Tuesday of that week, which is March the 10th, to Friday of that week. Ooh, Friday the 13th. That can only end well. And I just picked those dates out. at random. So middle of the week, spring break, not a particularly busy time. Bellagio is saying that their standard room rate at that time is $454 a night, and they're going to charge me $243 a night, plus a $55 resort fee. So I don't know if any of that was comped or not, but the Bellagio for those dates is particularly expensive. The Aria, I would have, including the resort fee, $195 a night. The Cosmo, $280 a night. Let me go down. The MGM Grand, $150. Oh, wait. No, that's $150 for the room. The MGM Grand is just $50 a night. It's free for those dates.
Right.
With
just your resort fee.
Yeah, the $50 resort fee. All right. That's pretty sweet. At the W, oh, holy crap. The W is expensive. So, you know what? They're offering me some deals. I do want to do one more thing. So let's see if I showed up on Friday the 13th and stayed till the subsequent Monday, so a weekend. Oddly, the price has dropped. So that must just be a feature of that particular weekend is less busy. There must be a convention in town or something like that.
Right, because the West Texas spring break is usually the week before the rest of the country spring breaks, because our rich people like to get out of the heat and go ski.
Okay, that is fair. So MGM Rewards, who I have been loyal to for years, is offering me some pretty good deals, but nothing earth-shattering. Now, before I move on and talk about competing offers, though, there's a couple of other things I want to talk about with MGM Rewards. One is the properties in Vegas don't send you mailers. At least they've never sent me a mailer. Now, I'm sure if I was a wealthier person than I am, I would have a casino host calling me and saying, hey, we hope you'll come. But that's not the kind of money I have. One of the advantages they have is MGM has properties all through the country. And because it is possible for me to drive from my town to Biloxi, I've been to the Beau Rivage. I haven't actually stayed at the Beau Rivage for 9 or 10 months. I briefly walked into it last month. Haven't spent $1 there in 9 or 10 months. Never did gamble much in the first place. But the Beau Rivage, which I can drive to, which is absolutely an MGM property, they are offering me flights, which I could fly there from here. I'm just not sure why I would, but they would offer me on select dates round-trip airfare, shuttle and luggage service, hotel, $60 free play. And I'm trying to see what that would cost because it says per paid seat. And I can't get it. So their standard rate on Sunday through Thursday, including for those dates, and remember, I didn't gamble much there. It was one night, and it's been 9 or 10 months, but up to 3 nights with rates starting at $70, including, you know what? I'm on the MGM Rewards site. This is an empirical problem I can solve. So, come on, there's going to be a way to tell this. But the upshot, folks, is that I like Biloxi very much. Like, it is absolutely worth going to. And it is 6 hours from Houston, 6 hours from Atlanta, 6 hours from Memphis and Nashville. There's a giant chunk of the United States that can get there quickly. Let me look at the same dates. So the midweek dates at the Beau Rivage. Now, the problem is if you want MGM, you've just got the one place. Yeah, the Beau Rivage is cheaper. The total for the room, including the resort fee, which is considerably lower for 3 nights, is $350. So for me, the real property in MGM properties, or real value in MGM properties, may be outside of Las Vegas. So, John, do you want me to talk about these 2 other flyers I'm holding from non-MGM Vegas properties?
Yeah, let's just compare A, what you've invested there, and B, how their offer compares to what MGM does.
So I went to the Plaza. It has been 12 months ago. Actually, it was 12 months ago this weekend with you, where I spent an unholy amount of money on bubble craps, which is because I kept winning, right? But still, it was bubble craps. It was a low return game for the casino. It wasn't that much money. It was just a couple of nights. And they are offering me 3 free deluxe room nights essentially anytime I want to go. Now, listeners, if you're not familiar with the Plaza, the deluxe rooms aren't as nice as the luxe rooms, but it'd be a place to stay. It'd be fine. There,
And they are away from the noise. We will give the deluxe rooms that tower is not head on to the experience.
yeah, they are also offering me $50 a day for 3 days, and either in slot play. Plus, they're offering me a small dining credit. So I've stayed at the Plaza once. You never gambled there for more than a couple hours. I've got free rooms there. It's not as nice, but it's completely possible to do. Now, what I'm intrigued by is I've got a flyer here from Treasure Island that I haven't actually stayed at in years. I've done some like drive-bys through Treasure Island, right? By which I mean I walked through there and I gambled for an hour or two, and I like the Treasure Island. Their rooms are great. The gambling rules are the best gambling rules on the Las Vegas Strip, particularly for the low stakes gambler like me. And I'm looking at this. Book by February 3rd and get a complimentary strip view upgrade. Your offer is valid January 5th through April 30th. There don't seem to be any restrictions on that. Complimentary 2-night stay with our lowest rates for additional stay, plus $75 in free slot play. Plus, there are some other bonuses in there. So Treasure Island seems to be the most generous of the lot, particularly relative to the money that I just haven't spent there in years. I went there couple, 3 times a year, every year for 3 or 4 years, but that ended more than a decade ago. Like, they haven't seen any of my money in a while. Simply showing up there at all seems to have the Treasure Island interested. Now, that may be because they were built to be a partner property with the Mirage, soon to be the Hard Rock, and that property is close to they're desperate for people. But yeah, the TI seems to be giving me my best comp offers. And I'll close with this. I don't really stay at Caesars properties. I haven't done it in years, but that's why you're not hearing me talk about my Caesars comp offers. So, John, what do you think about the offers I'm getting relative to the amount of money I have or haven't spent at any of those places?
Yeah, I think the takeaway from this is clear. Now, we've always told listeners, don't chase comps for the sake of comps.
Absolutely.
Right? Gamble what you're comfortable with gambling, and the offers you get are the offers you get. That said, if part of what you enjoy in the Vegas experience is the idea that they're going to try to invite you back, I think we can safely say that MGM used to give better offers to now we call you the high roller. That's relative to me. You are a mid-tier gambler. I am a bottom feeder. I can nurse $60 at a video poker machine all day long, right? They used to give us better offers than they do now. Yes. And a little bit of investment in some other places will yield better results. So it sounds contradictory. Don't chase comps. But if you'd like some comps, MGM and Caesars are not your best bet. These smaller operators are going to show you more love because, frankly, they need you more. Well, the big operators are banking on the big gambler and volume.
I would add one more rule to that, because you're squarely correct. You don't chase comps. But if you're going to be in a place for the love of bacon, get the Players Club card and insert it into the machine for whenever you are gambling, because that's got me a phenomenal deal at the Treasure Island based on having played blackjack for maybe an hour at like $25 a hand, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, whatever you are doing, track it. They already have your face on 100 cameras anyway. There's not really a privacy loss. You might as well get the free stuff.
Yeah, I completely agree with Bill on that one. I will say, Bill, I'm with you. My wife loves staying in MGM resorts because she just loves that part of the strip. She's not a gambler. She's there for the sights, the sounds, and the meals. MGM is hard to beat for that. It really is, right? Great rooms, lots to do. But I tend to gamble more on guys' trips. I'm totally okay if we never MGM on another guys' trip. I've actually been thinking about staying at Four Queens because their rooms are very basic, but they're remodeled. Their rewards program's pretty good. Their video poker odds are good. I'm thinking about taking a run at the Queens.
You know what? I will give that a shot because I am so angry at the time, number of times that MGM has jerked me around by not honoring their own printed deals, and then making it worse by pretending something else happened as if I couldn't read.
Yeah, it was pretty frustrating. I could see you growing angry, and I did not blame you. And by the way, if you have not been around for a while, go listen to customer service episodes 1, 2, and 3 to get the full lowdown. They really did Bill dirty, and it's kind of funny because it didn't happen to me, but I feel bad for my buddy. On that note, I think we're bringing this episode in for a landing. Bill, why don't you tell the listeners where they can find more Dine Drink Vegas and Dine Drink Travel content?
Listeners, we are so glad that you've been with us. And if you please join us on YouTube at Dine Drink Vegas, where we bring you short and focused videos to help you plan your next trip. Something like 5 or 10 minutes on a particular hotel room or restaurant or place to stay. You can also find us on Dine Drink Travel, where if you're a Vegas fan, you can see things like reviews of the executive lounges in the Las Vegas airport. You can also see reviews of airport lounges all over the country, as well as my trips to Ireland and other places. You can find me on essentially every social media platform at Dine Drink Travel, and most important of those, in addition to Facebook, is probably X, because that's where I interact with John.
Where I am at Dine Drink John, and I'm happy to talk to you about Las Vegas, about barbecue, about coffee, about adult beverages, and about how happy I am that Eberflus was fired and the Eagles lost. Cry, Eagles, cry. Sorry to our one listener in Philadelphia. I really feel bad for you, except I don't. Anyway, we appreciate that you took the time to listen to us so much. If you have a friend planning a trip to Las Vegas that could benefit from our news and travel tips, please share this podcast with them. If you have a mortal enemy that hates listening to old fat white Southern guys talk and drink and talk and drink, share it with them and torture them. Either way, you're helping us build an audience, and that will keep us bringing you this top shelf content for years to come. Thank you so much for listening, and until the next episode, happy travels. Bill's gotta find the do. He hung up the call do. That's one way to stop the recording. Wait, it's still recording. It's still recording. I had a little song about you hanging up on me, and it's still recording.
Yeah, working on it. Hold on.
We're going to save that. That'll be on after the bumper music. I'm saving that. Don't edit that out.
How do I end this?
3 dots.
I got the 3 dots. Video.
This should be manage recording at the top.
Yeah, you would think that, wouldn't you? Manage recording. See, I told you it was right there, John.
Yep. You